I love spending time in the workshop, but I often lose track of how long I've been here because I don't have a workshop clock. And so I'm going to build one using 12 different species of wood, one for each hour of the day. Let's get stuck in. All right, so here's what we're working with. We have walnut, sapele, iroquois, cherry, oak, white oak, ash, beech, red oak, poplar, maple, pine, and lime. So they're all different shapes and sizes, and my next step is going to be to use the table saw and the miter saw to cut them all roughly to the same sort of shape. Here you can see me doing a rip cut on the table saw to get everything to the right width, and we can do this in a single pass with both the riving knife and the safety guard in place. Next we need a consistent thickness, so I'm using a technique called resawing, where we partially cut the wood from both sides. Now you can't do this with the guard or the riving knife in place, so you'll see that I've actually removed them from my table saw for this cut. Importantly, you don't go all the way through, and instead we leave a little bit in the middle that is finished with a handsaw. All that remains is a little bit of sanding, and we are rewarded with 12 finished rectangles. Well, as you can see from the stash in my hand, phase one is now complete. So we've taken all our different boards of wood and cut them to a consistent shape and size. And this means they can move on to the next step, which is to put them on the CNC machine you see behind me, where I can cut them to their final shape for the clock. Before I do that, it's probably worth me telling you what we're actually building here. So let's open up Fusion 360 and go into the CAD model. Now, as you can see, I'm going for something quite modern here with that white background and with the carbon black outer ring and inner hub. And it genuinely will be carbon black because I'm going to scorch the wood to give it that colour. Now, the 12 species themselves are these kind of like pizza slice segment around the outside, and it's just the way my brain works. I'm going to have to lay them out going from the lightest round to the darkest. So now you know what we're building, let's jump back in with some CNC machining. Right, I've got my stock attached to the bed of the CNC, and I have been quite precise with how I've laid it all out. So each of these is exactly 120 mil apart from the next, and I've also tried to align them as best as possible down this edge here. And that's for good reason, because I'm going to have to do two operations. One with an end mill, and that's going to basically cut it out, and the next is with a V-bit to chamfer it. Now the thing is, if I did each one of these individually, I'd have to change tools every time. That would be 24 tool changes, which objectively is too many, even if you do enjoy this kind of thing, which I do. So instead, what I'm going to do with them is in rows. So I'm going to do tool change 1, 1, 2, 3, 4, and then swap over to the V-bit and do 1, 2, 3, 4, and then complete the next two rows. And that'll get us down from 24 to only 6 tool changes. As you can see, my plan went out the window on the very first pass because the work holding failed and my part moved. So I can no longer do the chamfer on the CNC. Instead, I'm just going to have to do it as a separate operation on the router table afterwards. But all is not lost, because so long as nothing moves too much, I can still cut out the remaining pieces. So let's see how that goes. When using the router table, my primary concern is to keep my fingers as far away from the cutting bit as I can. So I'm using a block of wood and some double-sided tape as a crude but safe way to get the job done. As you can see, the results are pretty decent, and it really feels like this project is coming together. Now let's talk finishes. For the 6 darkest woods, I'm using Danish oil because it brings out those lovely rich tones, which is exactly what I want. But I'm not going to use it on the lighter woods because it just turns them this horrible sort of antique yellow colour. Instead, I'm going to be using Osmo, which is specifically designed for lighter woods as it preserves that natural colour. Now the finish is applied, we can leave them to dry as we move on to making the other parts of the clock. Of course, we all love a good montage, so let's turn up the music and let it play. So we're coming to the end of a fairly productive day here in the workshop, and I have just one task left, which is to use my friend the blowtorch to char the inner hub and outer ring of the clock. Never done this before, so let's see how it goes. Well, that seemed to go fairly well. That's the inner hub done. Now time to do the outer ring. Here's the finished kit then. So we have the baseboard, which has been nicely painted. We've got the inner hub and outer ring, which are charred and finished. We've got our 12 species of wood, each in their different segments, arranged in colour order. And then we've got the clock mechanism itself with the hands. And I've also put the battery in beforehand just to check that it works. So it's all ready, let's put it together. I'd love to say I have some kind of elegant way to assemble everything, but I don't really. I'm just going to use a load of glue. Please don't judge me too harshly, it just seemed the fastest way to get this project over the line. Quite a few of the pieces gave this really satisfying click as I pushed them into place. Others needed some gentle encouragement from a hammer, but nothing too drastic. At this point, I stepped back to have a look, and I was really pleased with how it was all coming together. Next up, I installed the central hub, and as you'll see, I lined it up using some pencil marks because it needs to be in a particular direction to ensure when it's hung up on the wall that 12 o'clock is bang at the top. For the outer ring, I used my hot glue gun. Again, nothing special, but it does the job, and hopefully no one is going to be scrutinising the back of this clock too much. Last but not least was the mechanism itself, which fits snugly in through the back of the central hub. I took great delight in pushing the three hands into position and seeing the clock immediately come to life. Eager to see it hanging, I drilled a screw into the wall of my workshop and hooked on the clock. I was delighted with how it looked, but I couldn't help thinking whether I'd made a clock that was too nice for the workshop. I mean, let's be honest, if it stays here, it's going to get covered in sawdust and trashed in various different ways, but I really like decorating my workshop with finished projects that I can gaze upon happily for years to come. So whether it stays in the workshop or not, well, we'll have to wait and see. But for now, I think we can call time on this project. Thanks very much for watching, and I'll catch you in the next video.